Hi everyone, my name is Marie-Josée Arbeck, and today I will present you our research entitled Physical Activity as both Predictor and Outcome of Emotional Distress Trajectories in Middle Childhood. Our study uses the framework of positive youth development through sports model, which says that sports contexts represent a social environment in which caring relationships with adults, mainly coaches, positive interactions with peers, and supportive parental involvement can promote all sorts of benefits in youth, such as personal, social, and physical benefits. We know from past studies that participation in sport and physical activity are associated with less anxiety and depressive symptoms, so less emotional distress. And we know that a lower level of emotional distress is associated with more participation in sport and physical activity. However, past studies have a few limitations. Most of them used a cross-sectional design, and a few longitudinal studies used developmental trajectories. The focus has also been on adolescents and adults, so few studies used samples of children. And most studies examined one-way associations of physical activity on mental health or psychosocial adjustment. The objective of our study, we tried to address these limitations and assess the reciprocal relationship between physical activity, including sport participation, and depressive and anxiety symptoms in children aged 5 to 12 years. Our participants are from the Quebec longitudinal study of child development, and we used a subsample of 1,438 children. As for our measures, the emotional distress scale was assessed by teachers at age 6, 7, 8, and 10 years. Physical activity at age 12 years was self-reported by children, and sport participation at age 5 years was measured by parents. We included several pre-existing individual and family factors as control variables, such as child temperament, maternal education, or family income. We also used several analyses to to address our objectives. The covariance and regression analysis were stratified by sex. As for results, we found 3 emotional distress trajectories in our sample. We see that 77% of our sample have low level of emotional distress from ages 6 to 10 years. We see that 12% of our sample follow an increasing trajectory, and we see that 11% of our sample follow a declining trajectory. For our covariances analysis, or our ANCOVAs, we found significant results in boys only. What we found was that boys that were in the low emotional distress trajectory from ages 6 to 10 years were the ones who had a higher level of physical activity at age 12 years compared to boys in the other 2 trajectories. For our regression analysis, what we found was that boys who did not participate in physical activity or sports at age 5 years had more risks of being in the increasing or declining trajectory. They were more at risk of experiencing emotional distress. So in conclusion, we found long-term mutual and positive relationships between child emotional distress and physical activity in boys only. So we argued that physical activity contexts may provide opportunities for developing life skills such as initiative, teamwork, self-control, and also supportive relationships with pro-social peers and adults. So these can be protective factors against emotional distress. And we think that it would be beneficial to invest financial resources in youth intervention so that children can develop their full potential, both in the classroom, but also in structured contexts outside of school, such as physical activity context. Thank you to our funding agencies, and thank you for listening.